Could Cade Cunningham and Saddiq Bey become one of the best duos in the entire NBA? We'll talk about that in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com and tell them Locked On sent you. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast. We're on our road to 3,000 subscribers, continuing to show Locked On with the best and fastest growing fan base at the Locked On Network. And we have a few things to talk about today. But first, I just want to say, for those of you guys who are going to be listening to this on the podcast platforms, it's going to be a little bit later than usual. I apologize. The Megaphone, the place where we publish our podcast and then sends it out, to Apple Podcast, Spotify, blah, blah, all that stuff, is having maintenance issues. So I don't know when this will actually get to be up on the podcast platforms. I'm waiting for that to work itself out. We'll see how long that takes. But those of you on YouTube should be able to get this around the normal time that you usually watch these. So anyways, though, I'm sorry about that. Apologize for that, but I had to get that out the way. So I want to talk about something I saw apparently that Cade Cunningham said. I saw this on the 30th. I saw this on the 30th while I was at work. I was just at work, bored, scrolling through Twitter. I saw that Cade apparently said that he believes that him and Saddiq will be a top 5 duo in the NBA. So, of course, I have to come on the podcast now and talk about, is that a possibility? Is that something that could actually happen in the Pistons' future, having a top 5 duo that stars Cade Cunningham and Saddiq Bey? Before we even talk about if those two could even get that good to be a top 5 duo, I just want to run down like some of the best duos in the NBA. Okay, we're just going to run down some of the best ones. So Golden State, Steph and Draymond, or Steph and Clay, or Steph and Jordan Poole, or I'm assuming you probably go Steph and Draymond right now. Boston, you got Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. Los Angeles Lakers has LeBron and AD. Phoenix got CP3 and D Book. Philadelphia has James Harden and Joel Embiid. Brooklyn has KD and Kyrie. Milwaukee has Giannis and Chris Middleton. Chicago has Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. Minnesota has Kat and Anthony Edwards. New Orleans has Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. And Kawhi and Paul George over in the Clippers. I mean, we can keep it going. Denver has Jokic and Jamal Murray. I think, I could just end it right there. I probably could name 2 more or so. But those are some of the top duos in the entire NBA. Do I think the Pistons have a budding duo that could be better than any of those guys? Me personally, I do not. I do not think that Saddiq and Cade could be a top 5 duo in the NBA. But I have doubted Saddiq before, and I doubted Saddiq last year, and he eventually proved me wrong. Now, I think what is being claimed here is a little bit heftier than what he proved me wrong with last year. So if he were to pull this one off, then damn. That's basically all I'd have to say. Damn. But let's talk about the pathway in which this would have to happen. What would have to happen in order for this to become true? Well, I think the best outcome, the best way for this to become true, which, by the way, I think that Cade's future second man, his duo, is coming either in this year's draft or in free agency in this year or in a future acquisition next year in the draft or free agency. I think his duo has yet to arrive on this team. I think most people would agree with that. But, let's just play in this hypothetical. What would have to happen for Cade and Saddiq to become to be considered, at least talked about, as one of the best duos in the NBA? So I think the best comparison that I could come up with is Milwaukee's duo. That, I feel like, is the best chance they have. And it would require Cade Cunningham becoming a legit MVP candidate year in and year out. One of the best players in the entire NBA year in and year out. And then Saddiq simply having to reach around Chris Middleton level, which is all-star some years, borderline all-star, sometimes all-NBA in a great year. In a really good year, he's an all-star, but in just a normal year, maybe a fringe all-star type, something like that. He would have to reach that place, but really it would require Cade Cunningham to hit a tier that only like 4 or 5 guys are in. I think that's the only way I could envision these two guys being a top duo in the NBA. Saddiq would have to improve massively. Listen, and I think this is something that a few Pistons fans have to understand. Look, these guys, these guys are improving, yes, but with Cade Cunningham now, we have to elevate our expectations and what we want from this team and from their players, because now we need to start looking at possible championships in the future. So Saddiq Bey can improve and he can get better. And I'm going to assume he's probably never going to be one of those duos I just named. Like those guys are top 30 players in the entire NBA. If he reaches that, then the Pistons could have a shot at having one of the best duos. But I think that's an incredible long shot. He would have to improve massively defensively. He would have to improve massively from what we even talked about he improved on last year offensively and creating off the dribble, finishing around the rim. He got better at those things, and how much he got better was happy for us Pistons fans. But now if you're going to start holding them to the Chris Middletons, the Zion Williamsons, Brandon Ingrams, the Steph Currys, Draymond Green, like if we're going to start comparing them to like literally top 30 players, some Hall of Famers, and you want to call them one of the best duos in the NBA, we're talking about he has to improve that even to a way higher level. So I think the best outcome and best way for that to happen is Saddiq has to become close to Chris Middleton level in a great year. He's an all-star kind of thing. But it really relies on Cade Cunningham really just becoming an MVP candidate and carrying that duo. Cade's so good that he can take a guy like just exactly like Giannis. Giannis is so damn good that simply having a Chris Middleton, who probably isn't a better second banana than most second bananas in the NBA on contenders and stuff, they have Giannis. So he's good enough to overshadow some of that, and all he needs is a good enough one, and now they're one of the best duos. So I think that's the best chance they have at doing that. Do I think that's possible? Probably not. But like I said, Saddiq's proved me wrong before, so if he would have proved me wrong on this one, I'd be utterly shocked, and I would give it up to him. But I doubt. I told you guys this before multiple times. I think Cade's second banana has yet to arrive, and it will be coming either in this year's draft or a future acquisition in next year's free agency and or draft. So let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Hill. Do you guys think that Cade and Saddiq legit have a possibility to be one of the top duos in the entire NBA? Again, let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Hill. So one of you guys asked me, actually, after the lottery, I went on to Locked On Show. I was being interviewed. It's on the YouTube channel. You guys can go find it. It's about 2 weeks ago, I think a week and a half ago. It's just a 2-minute quick video. I was being interviewed, and the lady asked me, what are the Pistons trying to hang their hat on? What's their identity? I didn't have an answer. I have an answer now. I have an answer, at least for offensively. I have an answer right now. And we'll talk about that when we come back from the ad break. But first, I have to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, PrizePicks. All right, NBA fans, are you looking for a daily fantasy option for the NBA? They need to try the award-winning app PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. I love this. I know that you will too. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under and their projections. You can win up to 10 times on any entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's just that easy. PrizePicks is safe and it offers fast withdrawals. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. PrizePicks offers any prop you can think of, from point scores to rebounds and even steals. PrizePicks allows mixed sports entries as well. So like during the NFL season, I'd always, and I mean always, and I will be doing this when the NFL season comes back, take the under on Jared Goff's passing yards, but then I would take the over on Cade Cunningham's points. That's the kind of thing you can do over there. And it's not just NBA or NFL. You can do college basketball, college football, MLB, soccer, MMA, and more. And for a limited time, PrizePicks has an exclusive no-brainer of an offer for all of our users. Users get $50 for free if a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores a singular point, but you must use code NBA. That's right, this is an exclusive offer available to Locked On fans. Sign up today and use code NBA for $50 for free if a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores a singular point. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you have not already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast. We're on a road to 3,000 subscribers, continuing to show Locked On with the best and fastest growing fan base at the Locked On Network. So again, I'd really appreciate it if you head over to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Okay, So I was asked like a week and a half ago, what's the Pistons' identity? What are they trying to build over there? I could not come up with an answer. I thought it was a good question, and it actually stumped me. I couldn't figure out, like, the Pistons are rebuilding. They're losing. Are they really building an identity right now? What is their identity on either end of the floor? They don't have one. And it really stumped me. It was, usually you ask me a question about the Pistons. I know, like, I consider myself one of the smartest out there, considering the Pistons right now. And if you ask me a question, I usually have an answer. Now, whether the answer is right or wrong in the future, whether I'm proven right or wrong, doesn't matter. But usually I always have an answer and I have some stuff to back it up. But when they asked me that, I had nothing. I didn't know what to say. And some of that has to do with the fact that the Pistons are rebuilding and they're not necessarily, I wouldn't say they're necessarily concerned about trying to build an identity with some players that may not be on the roster next year. But I think I have an answer now, at least offensively. Defensively, I don't think we know anything. I don't know if they want to be a switching team. I don't know if they want to build an identity and drop coverage. I don't know if they want to build an identity and being aggressive in passing lanes. I don't know what they want to do defensively. Who knows? Last year, all they did was switch across the board with no like real scheme about it. It wasn't like, they switch across the board, then have some stuff happen behind or anything. So defensively, I have nothing. I don't think they've given us any reason to try to speculate what they're trying to do defensively. But offensively, I think there's a foundation there for something. I have some numbers to back this up. And so it's going to sound grim at first, okay, when I bring these numbers up. It's going to sound really grim. I don't think people truly understand how bad the Pistons were offensively last year. Let me just read you some of these numbers. Per synergy, the Pistons ranked 27th in the entire NBA in all spot-up opportunities, scoring 0.95 points per possession. They ranked 29th in the entire NBA in pick-and-roll ball handling possessions, scoring 0.77 points per possession. In isolation, they were the worst team in the NBA, scoring 0.80 points per possession. On cuts to the rim, they ranked 26th in the NBA, scoring 1.20 points per possession. On offensive rebound putbacks, they were 29th in the entire NBA, scoring 1.01 points per possession. Coming off screens, they were 28th in the NBA, scoring 0.87 points per possession. Around the basket, finishing around the basket, not including post-ups, they were 28th in the NBA, scoring 1.1 points per possession. And on all runners and all jump shots, they were last in the entire NBA. That right there is horrific. I have to assume that is like historically awful offensively. I don't know. I probably should go back as far as this goes back and look up just how bad teams are across the board each year, like how bad the worst teams are across the board offensively. But I have to assume that this is like historically awful. I have to believe that, because that's bad, dude. That's embarrassingly bad. So honestly, when we sit here and we talk about what do the Pistons need to improve on, everything, like shooting, outside shooting, finishing around the basket, big man, lob threat. Like you guys know I'm going for the vertical threat. I want a good center on the team. That's where I think the biggest, improvement needs to come from. But according to those numbers, dude, you need to get something offensively. They can do anything, because the Pistons couldn't do a damn thing right offensively, except one thing. They could do one thing decent. One thing. And you guys remember, if you guys go back to the beginning of the year, even the offseason, we had a podcast where I brought up all the numbers. I think it was, honestly, you guys want me to be honest, I think it was probably one of my best podcasts since coming on to Locked On Pistons. We spent an entire podcast. I went back and looked at the numbers from Dwayne Casey's time with Toronto and the numbers after Dwayne Casey left Toronto. I looked at the numbers before Dwayne Casey arrived in Detroit and since he's arrived in Detroit. And I compared the transition numbers of those teams. Before, after Dwayne Casey. Before, after Dwayne Casey. Currently, with Dwayne Casey, etc. And Dwayne Casey's teams have historically not been good in transition, or maybe I shouldn't say good in transition, because some of the years they did a good job of finishing in transition, but they don't run in transition historically. Like, this is, people can argue about, oh, well, Dwayne Casey didn't have the roster, blah, blah, with Detroit. No, that's not an excuse. Miss me with that. Because in Toronto, they didn't run either. And as soon as he left, literally the year that he left, they leaped into the top 7 in transition frequency. Like, it just historically is something that Dwayne Casey's teams do not do. They do not run in transition. And you guys will remember at the beginning of the year, I came on the podcast day after day after day saying This team has to run in transition. It's their only chance of scoring it offensively. They have athletes. They have guys who like pushing up tempo. You don't even have to, it doesn't have to be a 5 seconds or less offense. You just have to pick up the tempo. You have to run faster. Try to get teams, whether they're not in their half court set. Like, that's what they have to do. And you guys remember me on the podcast screaming and yelling about that over and over and over until eventually they actually started to do it some. And eventually they actually started to do it more. And then eventually they started to do it more and more and more. And shockingly, oh God, shocking to me, not really, not shocking to me at all. I saw it coming, but shocking to all the people out there who thought, all the people that tweet, and trust me, there was a lot of people. There was a lot of people who tweeted at me saying, well, he doesn't have the roster for you. What, you think he just has a bunch of, 6'8" athletic guys that are ready to run? No, that's not the point. You don't have to have 6'8" LeBron James to be able to play be a fast team. That's not the point. You have two guards in Cade Cunningham and Killian Hayes who love to get the ball up, love finding their teammates, and like playing in a faster tempo and like doing some flashy things. When you have two guards like that like pushing tempo and like playing that type of way, everything else will sort themselves out. Okay, and you don't have to be a great athlete in transition to be good. Saddiq Bey was one of the best transitional players in the entire NBA his rookie season because he knew how to run wing to wing and find the open spots and spot up. But anyways, that's enough of me trying to flex on those people who were getting on my nerves. My point is, the one thing that they were not horrible at this past season was transition. They ranked 18th in the NBA, scoring 1.123 points per possession in the league last year. And I believe after January, they actually started to leap towards like the top 15, top 14 in transition frequency last time I checked. So they started to pick it up in transition, and it was literally their best offense by far. Nothing even comes close. Like, you guys just heard all the numbers. I think the closest number that comes is cutting. Cutting is cutting is their best offense outside of that. On 555 possessions, they rank 26th in the NBA. I'm not going to count pick and roll men because it's like their 7th most used possession. So that it's not enough. I don't feel like enough of a sample size there. But transition was their 3rd most possession used this past season. Okay. They ranked 18th in the NBA. So what do I think they should be building their identity on offensively? Transition. This team needs to be a fast team. They should be playing fast, get the ball off a defensive rebound, go, run, get it going, get the ball going up the floor. Again, you don't need, now would you like to have some explosive athletes that can dunk in transition, catch alley-oops in transition, leap and get to the rim quickly in transition? Yeah, you'd like to have that, and I think they could possibly get that in this year's draft. And they eventually would like to have that, of course, on the team. But you can still be a fast team. You can still be a really damn good transition team without that when you have guards, specifically one in Cade Cunningham and Killian Hayes. Both those guys love getting the ball up the floor. They like attacking defenses when they're not set. And I think we all know about Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham is just great. If he can push it in transition and get a matchup he likes, or get, the defense scrambling so he can take his guy one-on-one to the basket and not have to worry about help side defense. And help side defense does come. He can kick out to Saddiq, who knows a great way of running wing to wing and finding the right spots to be in for a kick out 3 in transition. He'll do that. But I think, especially for Killian Hayes, in like the last 2.5 months of the season, I think everyone saw that transition, he really started to pick things up. That's when he really started to gain more confidence. He would get the ball off a defensive rebound. He would get an outlet pass, and he would go burst, run straight down the court. And that's when he would try to get to the rim, all the way to the rim, and try to score. He wouldn't always do it. He'd try to find some people down in the corner. There was one fantastic pass I was just looking at yesterday against the Oklahoma City Thunder when he did like a wraparound pass. I don't even know how he found Isaiah Livers in the corner. But my point is, when you have two guards like that, your identity needs to be transition. And the fact that their numbers are so much better in transition than any other possession or any other play type, not shocking at all. This is what this team should be built on. They're a very, very young team. Very young team. They have a few old guys that don't really play a lot, but they are an extremely young team. They should be taking advantage of that. They should be running. They're a well-conditioned team. There's no reason for them to be tired. They don't have 1,000 miles on them or something. Like, bro, they should be running as much as possible. Even off of makes. Like, that's something that was getting on my nerves this past season too, that I hope they start to do moving forward. Even off of makes, they should be outletting the ball and getting it up fast. The waiting till you get into your half-court offense at like 14, 13 seconds left on the shot clock. The Pistons don't have enough offensive talent, individual offensive talent, to do that consistently and score consistently. They don't have that. They don't have that type of talent. But what they do have are guys who love to run in transition, can catch a defense lacking, get all the way to the rim, and they have two guards who, when they get all the way to the rim, if help is there, they can kick out for a three, and they have some really good three-point shooters around them in Isaiah Livers and Saddiq Bey who know how to play that way and find open spots and rotate, and move around off ball and find the open spot. So I didn't have the answer a week and a half ago, but I have the answer now. I think the Pistons should be hanging their hat, their identity on running in transition offensively. Defensively, I have no idea what they're going to do. But at least offensively, they need to be a running heavy team. They need to be a transition type of team, and they need to play fast. They have the type of young legs to do it. They have two guards who strive or thrive in it. And whoever they draft in this upcoming upcoming draft, I feel like their options probably will fit into this as well. And whoever they get in free agency, I think would fit into it as well. So that's why I believe the Pistons' identity should be offensively. Let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill what you guys think. Do you guys disagree, or do you guys believe that transition and playing faster should be the Pistons' identity offensively? I'm telling you, man. I feel like when teams come into Detroit, they need to know, listen, we got to be at our peak shape, and we got to be paying attention at all times because this team's going to run it on us. We turn the ball over, they're going to run it on us. We miss a shot, they're going to run it on us. There's no arguing with the refs. There's no walking back. This team is going to run it down our throats, and if we're not ready for it, they're going to get easy baskets or easy threes. That's what the Pistons' offensive identity should be. When we come back, a coach that's in the NBA Finals says he was second in the Pistons coaching search a few years ago. Would he have been the right pick over Dwayne Casey? Should the Pistons fans feel a type of way about him not being the head coach currently, not being selected in 2018 instead of Dwayne Casey? We'll talk about that when we come back. But first, I had to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. Why endure often pointless and seemingly intimidating questioning, like is your Odyssey and LX, and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand that their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home or in your pocket by using your phone. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? For example, a Honda Odyssey fuel pump is $353 from a chain store and $216 from Rock Auto. Rock Auto is a family business that's been doing it for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every single customer. They have everything you could possibly need, from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even a new carpet. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Again, go to rockauto.com and write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. On our way to 3,000 subscribers, best way to support the podcast. You guys get all that jazz. I'd really appreciate it. So recently we got some, I wouldn't call it news, but we got some quotes out of Ime Udoka, head coach of the Boston Celtics, who are now in the NBA Finals. They were 18-21 at one point this season, but Udoka got them to buy into defense. They have been the best defensive team in the entire NBA since January. They have destroyed teams defensively in the playoffs. He's been a great find by them. He's done a great job. He's completely changed their identity since taking over for Brad Stevens as the head coach over there. And he's turning out to be one of the best coaches in the entire NBA. But now that he's getting to the finals and they're in the finals, he is now saying teams that didn't give him the shot, or teams that he constantly finished second in interviews in, and eventually he felt like he was always ready. He felt like he's been ready for a head coaching job for years, and that he says that he was always disappointed and he felt like he should have had this opportunity years ago with another team. And he went on to name teams: Cleveland, Indiana, and sadly, Pistons fans, the Detroit Pistons. The Detroit Pistons, apparently he said he finished second in the head coaching search there, but the Pistons eventually decided to go with Dwayne Casey, who had just come off a Coach of the Year award-winning award, with the Toronto Raptors, and was fired because they had lost to LeBron James again in the Eastern Conference playoffs. So I saw some Pistons fans complain like, dude, we could have had Udoka. Now we're stuck with Dwayne Casey, blah, blah. And I saw some Dwayne Casey defenders like, yeah, Udoka really is taking this team farther than Dwayne Casey did. What's my thoughts about it? So I believe in 2018, I was the site expert at Piston Power. I believe I was the site expert and editor at that time of Piston Powered. And when the Pistons fired Stan Van Gundy from both the GM job and the head coaching job, I remember the reports coming out of who they were going to be interviewing and who they were interested in. I remember Udoka being one. I remember Dwayne Casey being one. And I specifically remember writing Forward Piston Powered and going on the hashtag Pistons podcast with Joe Sinke, who has been on the podcast a few times. And I remember saying that the two people that I wanted the Pistons to sign as their head coach was either Dwayne Casey or Ime Udoka. Those are the two guys I wanted. Udoka was a really young guy. We were just, I believe this was just coming off the heels and everyone becoming like a Brad Stevens lover. He was a young head coach and really took over. And we started to see more of a trend with young coaches, not just in the NBA, but in the NFL too. Like young coaches were coming in and taking over. And I really was intrigued by Udoka. He was on the Popovich tree, obviously. You learn a lot from him. And he was a really young guy. He sounded like he was a really recruited person for multiple head coaching jobs people are interested in. So those are my two big guys. And obviously, Dwayne Casey was coming off a Coach of the Year bid, and I was like, oh, well, if you can get the Coach of the Year, who was last year, then obviously you probably would want to do it. I was told by a lot of people, do not be fooled. You're not going to like Dwayne Casey. But either way, those are the two guys that I remember writing about that I wanted the Pistons to get. Looking back at it, did the Pistons make the wrong decision? Yes, they did. They made the wrong decision. Now, is Udoka changing anything? Is Udoka, taking the Pistons with Blake Griffin to the NBA Finals? No, he's not doing that. Is this team last year making the playoffs all of a sudden with Udoka? No, they're not doing that. But that's not the point. Dwayne Casey and Udoka wouldn't have I think the Pistons probably would have been a little bit better in 18-19 if Udoka was this type of coach. Now, maybe if you hired him back in 18-19, he wouldn't be this good of a coach. Maybe he needed these extra years to get to the point where he's at now to be this good of a coach. But if you're just taking this coach and putting him in 18-19, I think you probably get a little bit of a better season. I don't think my biggest thing with Dwayne Casey criticizing him that year is that he ran Blake Griffin to the ground offensively. It was just give the ball to Blake Griffin, and Blake Griffin was just running to the ground. But either way, my point is that although either of these two coaches changed what's happened in the last few years, no. But I think it's quite clear, I don't think this is a hot take at all, that Ime Udoka is a better coach than Dwayne Casey. He's one of the better coaches in the entire NBA. He's proven that this year. So if you simply could have a better person at the job and you had the chance to get the better person at the job a few years ago, then obviously you made the wrong decision. That's not saying that things would have been different the last few years. That's not saying the Pistons would have won a championship or something, or would have won a playoff series with Udoka instead of Casey. No. But it's simply saying that if you could have had the better guy a few years ago, then yeah, you made the wrong decision, especially when he comes in second. Now, it's not some franchise-altering mistake. I don't think fans should really be getting that worked up over it. I don't think it's that big of a deal to where people should be that mad about it. It's definitely, I understand why some fans would be a little bit disappointed because Udoka, again, is one of the best young coaches in the NBA and has proven to be one of the best coaches in the entire NBA right now with how he got this team to buy in defensively and how well they're buying in defensively. They literally have been the best defensive team since January, and a lot of that has to do with Udoka changing the culture there and changing the identity there. So give him a ton of credit. Did the Pistons make the right decision in 2018? Probably not. Udoka was probably the right choice. He's probably proven that now, but it's not that big of a deal. I don't think it was that big franchise altering. I still don't believe Dwayne Casey will be the head coach when they're trying to win anyways. So they're going to have another shot to go after their own, possibly young revolutionary coach kind of thing. In a few years, I think probably after next year they will have that chance, but it is what it is. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't think Pistons fans should be getting that worked up over it, but I think it's quite clear. I think it's okay to say that they probably made the wrong decision not getting Udoka. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Let me know in the comment section what you guys thought about today's episode or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, make sure you're making Locked On NBA your second listen of every single day, from the first jump ball to play-in tournament to the last possession of the finals. Locked On experts take you deep inside the playoffs with inside analysis affecting all 30 teams. Make sure you're making I completely just like twisted what I usually say. I know you guys caught that. I meant to say make sure you're making Locked On NBA your second listen every day, but also head over to the YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. Best way to support the podcast on the road to 3,000 subscribers. I'm really jumbling up this, me leave this exit right here. Anyways, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Sorry about the inconvenience with the podcast platforms. Megaphone was on some dirt. Not my fault. Can't do anything about it. But until the next one, I'll see you guys later. Peace out, everybody, and stay safe.